Okay, so you've said us like a ton of stuff on climate change.
Yeah.
It seems like you're trying to like really get to the bottom of what's going on with the planet, right?
Yeah.
Cut through all the noise, all the arguments you see everywhere.
Uh-huh.
And we've got like everything here.
Yeah.
We've got reports from the EPA, the UN Environment Program, a paper from NASA.
Right.
And then get this, we've got a piece from a Hillsdale College professor who's got like a whole different take on things.
Yeah, you've definitely put together a diverse set of perspectives here.
Yeah.
It's clear you want to look at this from all sides, not just one narrative.
I want to see the whole picture.
Uh-huh.
So for this deep dive, we're going to help you sort through all this and see if we can figure out,
Right.
what's fact, what's fiction.
Yeah.
And what really jumps out at me is that you've included sources that mention some pretty wild evidence,
Uh-huh.
like ice cores tree rings, even the way the Earth wobbles in its orbit.
Yeah, those are some really valuable tools for understanding the Earth's climate history.
Right. Scientists can actually use those things to trace back temperature patterns and atmospheric conditions.
Wow.
Over thousands of years. Thousands of years.
Yeah, it's like having a time machine for the planet.
It's like a planet time machine.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we jump into the time machine, let's start with what we know about what's happening right now.
Okay.
Multiple sources agree that the last decade has been the hottest on record.
Yeah.
And it's not just a matter of like feeling a little bit warmer, right?
No, definitely not.
Like what else is going on?
We're seeing changes that go way beyond a few extra degrees on the thermometer.
Yeah.
Like the oceans are warming, sea levels are rising.
Right.
Ice sheets and glaciers are shrinking. It's a whole web of changes that all point to a rapidly changing climate
Uh-huh.
and the rate of change.
Right.
That's what's really concerning. It's
Okay.
faster than anything we've seen in at least 2,000 years,
Wow.
which raises some serious questions.
Yeah, it makes you wonder what's driving that, right?
Yeah,
Like Earth's climate has fluctuated naturally throughout history.
right.
We've had ice ages and warm periods long before humans were driving cars
Sure.
or turning on the AC, right?
Yeah.
So is this just like a natural thing?
That's true. Understanding natural climate variability is really important.
Okay.
But the current rate of warming
Right.
is way beyond what we can explain with just natural cycles.
Okay.
The evidence really points to human activities,
Uh-huh.
particularly the burning of fossil fuels,
Okay.
as the main driver for this accelerated warming.
So how do scientists actually prove that connection?
Yeah.
Is it like piecing together a puzzle or something?
You could say that.
Yeah.
We have these natural records like ice cores, tree rings, oceans, sediments. They're like fingerprints at a crime scene.
Oh, okay.
Each one tells a part of the story.
Uh-huh.
And they all point to a dramatic spike in greenhouse gas concentrations.
Okay.
And it coincides with the Industrial Revolution.
Right.
This spike is unlike anything we've seen in at least the last 800,000 years.
800,000 years. That's a long time.
It is.
So it's not just a hunch then.
No,
There's real data backing this up.
absolutely.
Wow.
And it's not just ancient history either. Modern instruments and satellites,
Uh-huh.
they're constantly monitoring greenhouse gas levels and global temperatures.
Right.
And they confirm that this warming trend isn't natural.
Wow.
In fact, the IPCC,
Right.
which draws on research from hundreds of leading climate scientists,
Uh-huh.
has concluded that humans are responsible for almost all of the global warming over the past 200 years.
So we're not just talking about like a natural fluctuation.
No.
It's like we've messed with this system.
Yeah, we've thrown a wrench in the gears.
Yeah, that's pretty scary.
It is a serious issue.
But, I mean, there are people who say that climate change is no big deal, right? They say like a few degrees warmer won't hurt.
Uh-huh.
Maybe we'll just get like a longer beach season.
Right, but that's a really dangerous oversimplification.
Okay.
Even a small temperature increase can trigger a domino effect
Right.
on Earth systems. Think about disrupted ecosystems,
Yeah.
impacts on biodiversity,
Right.
increased extreme heat events,
Right.
changes in agricultural yields.
Yeah.
The list goes on.
Okay.
It's not just about a slightly warmer summer.
Right.
It's about the potential for a widespread disruption to life as we know it.
And that's precisely why the Paris Agreement aims to limit global warming to well below 2 degrees Celsius.
Yes.
Preferably 1.5.
Right.
It seems like every fraction of a degree matters in this fight.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The IPCC's findings show a stark contrast between 1.5 and 2 degrees of warming.
Wow.
We're talking billions more people exposed to extreme heat,
Oh, wow.
greater species loss, more widespread coral reef destruction.
Right.
These aren't minor inconveniences.
Yep.
These are potential tipping points
Right.
with devastating consequences.
Okay, so we're starting to see why this warming trend is such a big deal.
Yeah.
But what about those like random cold snaps we get sometimes?
Uh-huh.
Does it like a massive snowstorm kind of contradict the whole global warming thing?
That's where understanding the difference between weather and climate is really key.
Okay.
Weather is what's happening outside your window right now.
Right.
But climate describes long-term weather patterns
Okay.
over a large region.
Got it.
It's like the difference between your mood on any given day
Uh-huh.
versus your overall personality.
Okay.
You can have a bad day and still be a generally happy person.
I like that.
Yeah.
So a cold snap is just like a blip.
Exactly.
It doesn't negate the long-term trend.
Right.
Okay, cool.
And in fact, climate change can actually make those cold snaps more intense in some cases.
Really?
Yeah, remember that Texas snowstorm in 2021?
Oh, yeah.
Caused billions of dollars in damage.
Yeah.
Some experts believe that was triggered by rapid warming in the Arctic,
Wow.
disrupting atmospheric patterns.
So climate change can make cold weather worse.
It can in some cases, yeah.
That's pretty counterintuitive.
It is.
Okay, so we've tackled a couple of those, like, misconceptions,
Uh-huh.
but there's one more that's particularly frustrating.
Yeah.
The idea that scientists themselves disagree about climate change.
Right, the classic scientists are still debating it
Yeah,
argument.
yeah.
This is where understanding scientific consensus is crucial.
Okay.
Over 99% of peer-reviewed research
Wow.
supports the theory of human-caused climate change.
Really?
Yeah, that level of agreement is incredibly rare in science.
Okay.
And it really underscores the strength of the evidence.
So it's not like scientists are, like, sitting around unsure of what's going on.
No.
The evidence is pretty clear.
Yes. While there will always be dissenting voices,
Right.
it's important to recognize that the vast majority of the scientific community agrees.
Uh-huh.
Climate change is real, it's happening now,
Right.
and human activity is the dominant driver.
Okay, well, that settles that then.
Yeah, for the most part.
And we've established that the planet is warming.
Right.
And human activity is the main culprit.
Uh-huh.
But sometimes it feels like it's too late to do anything.
I understand that feeling.
Yeah.
It's a big problem.
So we're all doomed.
Yeah, but while urgent action is definitely needed,
Okay.
the window of opportunity to mitigate the worst effects of climate change
Right.
hasn't closed yet.
Okay.
We still have the power to make a difference.
So what can we do about it?
Right.
It feels like a global problem that's bigger than any one person.
It is a global problem,
Right.
but individual actions, when multiplied across millions of people,
Uh-huh.
can absolutely have an impact.
Okay.
Think about reducing your carbon footprint,
Yeah.
driving less, choosing energy-efficient appliances, cutting back on meat consumption.
Okay.
Those choices might seem small,
Right.
but they add up.
Yeah.
Especially when they send a signal to businesses and policymakers
Uh-huh.
that people care about this issue.
So it's like voting with your wallet.
Exactly.
Okay.
Supporting companies and products that align with your values can have a real impact.
Got it.
And beyond individual actions, systemic change is crucial.
Okay.
We need governments and corporations to step up and take responsibility.
So it's not just on us.
No, it's a collective effort.
Okay.
This means investing in renewable energy, promoting sustainable practices,
Right.
and implementing policies that incentivize emission reductions.
I'm reminded of that Insider Science video we watched.
Uh-huh.
They talked about how government policies can have a ripple effect,
Right.
encouraging both businesses and individuals to adopt cleaner technologies.
Absolutely. A great example of that is India's success with solar power.
Right.
That didn't happen by chance.
Right.
It was a result of deliberate government policies and investments in renewable energy infrastructure.
Okay.
We need more examples like that on a global scale.
Yeah.
It's not about finding a single magic bullet.
Right.
It's about taking a multi-pronged approach.
So it's about individuals taking action,
Uh-huh.
corporations stepping up their game,
Yeah.
and governments creating policies that support a more sustainable future.
Right.
It's going to take all of us working together.
It will.
We've debunked some myths,
Yeah.
laid out the challenges,
Uh-huh.
but we've also identified some solutions
Right.
and highlighted the power we have to make a
You
difference.
do have that power.
So with that in mind, let's move on to our next topic.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay. Greenhouse gases.
Yeah.
These are often talked about when discussing climate change.
Right.
But I have to admit,
Mm-hmm.
I don't really understand how they work.
So essentially, they're like a blanket
Okay.
that keeps the planet warm enough to support life.
Okay.
Certain gases in the atmosphere, like carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxide,
Right.
they trap heat from the sun.
Okay.
And this process is known as the greenhouse effect.
Right.
It makes Earth habitable.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But it sounds like that blanket is getting a bit too thick,
Yeah, you could say that.
and that's where the problem is.
Exactly.
Okay.
So these greenhouse gases occur naturally.
Right.
But human activities, especially since the Industrial Revolution, have dramatically increased their concentration in the atmosphere.
Okay.
And when that happens, more heat gets trapped,
Uh-huh.
leading to a warmer planet.
So burning fossil fuels is a big contributor to this.
Yeah, definitely.
Are there any other human activities that are adding to the problem?
Agriculture,
Okay.
particularly livestock farming. You've probably heard about cows and their methane emissions.
Yeah.
It's actually their burps, not their farts, that release the methane.
Oh, really?
Yeah, methane is a potent greenhouse gas.
Okay.
And it's not just the cows themselves, it's the whole industrial agricultural system.
So even our food choices have an impact.
Yeah, pretty much everything is
It
connected.
seems like everything is connected.
It really is.
Yeah.
And to see just how much we've changed the composition of our atmosphere, take a look at that EPA report you sent.
Okay.
There's a visual there showing greenhouse gas concentrations over the last 2,000 years.
Okay.
For centuries, carbon dioxide levels hovered around 280 parts per million.
Okay.
But since the Industrial Revolution, it's like someone hit the fast forward button.
Wow.
Today, we're over 400 parts per million.
That's a huge jump.
It is a significant increase.
Yeah.
A level not seen in millions of years.
Wow, that really puts things into perspective.
It does.
But I keep thinking back to the fact that Earth's climate has always fluctuated.
Right.
Even before humans were around.
Yeah.
We had ice ages and warming periods long before the invention of the internal combustion engine.
Sure.
How does natural climate variability fit into all of this?
That's a really important point.
Yeah.
Earth's climate has gone through cycles of warming and cooling over millennia,
Uh-huh.
driven by natural factors like changes in Earth's orbit
Okay.
and variations in solar activity.
Right.
Remember that British Antarctic survey source you sent?
Yeah.
It mentioned interglacial cycles.
I remember
Those
that.
long, slow swings between ice ages and warmer periods.
Yeah, those cycles happen over tens of thousands of years, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
And during those cycles, greenhouse gas concentrations fluctuated naturally, too.
Uh-huh.
Warmer periods coincided with higher CO2 levels.
Okay.
Colder periods with lower levels.
Right.
It was a balanced system.
But now we've come along and messed things up.
Essentially, yeah.
Okay.
Natural factors play a role,
Uh-huh.
but they can't explain the current rate and magnitude of warming.
Right.
It's like we've disrupted the natural rhythm of
Okay.
Earth's climate system
Right.
by pumping enormous amounts of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere.
Okay, so we've overloaded the system.
Yeah, you could say that.
It seems like those ice cores you mentioned earlier
Uh-huh.
could provide some insight into just how unusual this current warming trend is.
Absolutely. They're like time capsules that
Okay.
capture snapshots of Earth's past climate.
Right.
Imagine layers upon layers of snow accumulating over thousands of years, compressing into ice
Uh-huh.
and trapping tiny bubbles of ancient air.
Wow.
Scientists can analyze those air bubbles
Okay.
to measure past atmospheric composition,
Right.
including greenhouse gas concentrations,
Okay.
going back hundreds of thousands of years.
It's amazing that we can actually get that kind of detailed information from ice.
It is pretty incredible.
So what do those ancient air bubbles tell us about the current situation?
They tell us that the recent spike in CO2
Uh-huh.
is unlike anything seen in at least the last 800,000 years.
Okay.
For millennia, CO2 levels fluctuated within a relatively narrow range.
Right.
Then, bam, with the Industrial Revolution,
Yeah.
we see this dramatic increase
Right.
that shoots way beyond anything in that entire record.
So we've basically rewritten the rules of the game?
In a way, yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about the role of greenhouse gases,
Uh-huh.
the evidence from ice cores,
Right.
but we also have that dissenting voice
Yeah.
from the Hillsdale College professor.
Right.
He argues that CO2 itself isn't the problem.
Uh-huh.
It's the increase caused by human activities.
Yeah, it's a nuanced argument.
Okay.
It's true that CO2 is a naturally occurring gas,
Right.
and it's essential for plant life.
Uh-huh.
However, it's the unprecedented rate and magnitude of the increase
Of
that's
rate?
causing the concern.
Right.
It's like the difference between adding a pinch of salt to a dish
Uh-huh.
versus dumping the entire shaker in.
Yeah.
A little bit is fine. Too much throws everything off balance.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah,
So while CO2 is naturally present,
right.
the problem is that we've drastically altered its concentration in the atmosphere,
Exactly.
which is throwing things out of whack.
Yeah, essentially.
This has been a fascinating discussion so far.
It has been interesting.
We've learned a lot about how greenhouse gases work,
Uh-huh.
how scientists use ice cores to study past climates,
Right.
and how human activities are impacting the delicate balance of our planet's systems.
Yeah, it's all connected.
But where do we go from here?
That's the big question.
Yeah.
What can we actually do about this massive problem? Thankfully, it's not a question without answers.
Okay.
There are concrete steps we can take, both individually and collectively,
Right.
to address climate change.
Okay.
Let's explore some of those solutions in our next segment.
Sounds good. Okay, so we've covered like a lot in this deep dive.
Yeah, we have.
We've looked at the evidence, debunked some myths, grappled with the reality of climate change.
Right.
It can feel pretty overwhelming,
I understand.
but I'm also thinking about solutions.
Yeah.
What can we actually do to deal with this like massive global challenge.
The good news is it's not too late to act.
Okay.
We have the tools and the knowledge to mitigate the worst impacts of climate change.
Okay.
And every action, no matter how small, contributes to a better future.
I think a lot of people feel like their actions won't make a difference with a problem this big.
Right.
So, where do we even begin?
Well, individual actions absolutely matter.
Okay.
Especially when multiplied across millions of people.
Right.
Think about reducing your carbon footprint,
Okay.
driving less, choosing energy-efficient appliances, cutting back on meat consumption.
Okay.
Those choices might seem small,
Yeah.
but they add up.
Right.
Especially when they send a signal to businesses and policymakers that people care about this issue.
So it's like voting with your wallet.
Exactly.
Okay.
Supporting companies and products that align with your values can have a real impact.
Got it.
And beyond individual actions, systemic change is crucial.
Okay.
We need governments and corporations to step up and take responsibility.
Right. So it's not just on us.
No, it's a collective effort.
Okay.
This means investing in renewable energy, promoting sustainable practices,
Right.
and implementing policies that incentivize emission reductions.
Like that Insider Science video talked about how government policies can have a ripple effect.
Right.
Encouraging both businesses and individuals to adopt cleaner technologies.
A great example of that is India's success with solar power.
Right.
That was a result of deliberate government policies and investments in renewable energy infrastructure.
So we need more examples like that.
We do on a global scale.
Yeah.
It's not about finding a single magic bullet.
Right.
It's about taking a multi-pronged approach.
So individuals taking action,
Uh-huh.
corporations stepping up their game,
Yeah.
and governments creating policies that support a more sustainable future.
Exactly.
It's going to take all of us working together.
It will.
We've talked about solutions and the power we have to make a difference.
We do have that power.
Climate change is a huge challenge.
Yeah, it is.
But it's also an opportunity.
It is.
A chance to innovate, collaborate, and change how we interact with the planet.
Absolutely.
And to build a better future for everyone.
For everyone.
And here's something to think about.
Yeah.
If scientists can use ice cores to look back hundreds of thousands of years,
Right.
what kind of climate record are we creating right now with our actions? That's a good question. What will those future ice cores say about
It's
us?
something to think about.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into climate change.
Thanks for having me.
Until next time, keep learning, keep questioning, and keep striving for a better future.